dispute, bringing the total death toll to 39 as the fighting entered a second day. More than 1 million people have died from the coronavirus, with no let-up in a pandemic that has ravaged the world economy, inflamed diplomatic tensions, and upended lives. By 0630 GMT Monday, the disease had claimed 1,001,093 victims from 33,112,474 recorded infections, according to Johns Hopkins University Center. The United States has the highest death toll with more than 200,000 fatalities, followed by Brazil, India, Mexico, and Britain. Drastic controls that put half of humanity, more than 4 billion people, under some form of lockdown by April at first slowed down the spread. But since restrictions were eased, infections have soared again. With scientists still racing to develop a vaccine, governments have again been forced into an uneasy balancing act. Virus controls slow the spread of the disease, but they hurt already reeling economies and businesses. The IMF earlier this year warned that the economic upheaval could cause a crisis like no other as the world's GDP collapsed, though the fund's outlook appears brighter now than it did in June. And new infection control restrictions in Europe stirred anger and frustration as around the world the global coronavirus toll is now more than 1 million dead. Demonstrators in Madrid complained that the new lockdowns to confront mounting case numbers were discriminatory as they mostly affected poorer districts.
Sanitarias. El problema es que estamos encerrados en este barrio y aquí solamente cada vez hay menos médicos en el ambulatorio, no nos atienden cuando vamos porque no existe, la sanidad pública se la han privatizado y se la han cargado y entonces el confinamiento puede estar bien, insisto, si va acompañado de medidas sanitarias que no las hay. Lo único que han mandado esta semana, en vez de médicos y enfermeras, ha sido policías a reprimir a la gente que se manifestaba.
Now, over the past week, Spain has registered the highest number of new cases within the EU with a rate of nearly 300 per 100,000 inhabitants. But in the Madrid region, the figure is currently more than 700 per 100,000. The city, with its surrounding region, is at the epicenter of a second wave of infections sweeping Spain. Parks in the affected neighborhoods are closed, and restaurants and other businesses must shut at 10 p.m. in a country with a tradition of eating late. The regional government of Madrid, which is responsible for health, will from Monday extend the restrictions to 8 more districts, home to another 167,000 people. Now, since midnight, the new measures impose mobility restrictions on the 167,000 mentioned people who can only leave their neighborhoods for work, school, or medical reasons, but they're not confined to their homes and they can move freely within their district. Meanwhile, thousands of people demonstrated against the coronavirus-related restrictions in Trafalgar Square in London to voice their disapproval over rules such as obligatory masks and social distancing.
It's not that it doesn't affect me, but the numbers, there's all cases, new cases, not showing any recovery of cases. So I think it's designed intentionally to manipulate and induce mass fear in the population.
Yes, so I'm not saying that the coronavirus doesn't exist. What I'm saying is it's been blown out of complete proportion. So there are people, and I feel sorry for people who have died. My own father died March this year, and he had a stroke. He was old, went into hospital, had a number of strokes in hospital. Guess what they put on his death certificate? COVID-19. Yeah.
Don't comply. I mean, at the end of the day, the death rate is the same as the flu, basically. We don't act like this for a flu. I don't go around my mum's house if she's got cancer and I've got the flu. We're all adults, we're all sensible. Continue life as you would do normally. We could have put a gold wall up around every single vulnerable person in the world. We could have put 24-hour security there. and it would have been peanuts compared to what they've done to us.
Now, protests are exempt from the UK government's rule of 6 as long as social distancing was observed. But police shut down the protests after the rule was broken. Prime Minister Boris Johnson on Saturday pledged new support for the World Health Organization's effort to develop a vaccine and called those rejecting a potential inoculation, quote, nut jobs. Local infection control restrictions now extend to 1 in 4 people in Britain in an attempt to contain a mounting second wave of the virus, which has now claimed 42,000 lives in the country so far, Europe's highest toll. Last week, Prime Minister Johnson's government imposed a ban on gatherings of more than 6 people and ordered pubs and restaurants to close at 10 p.m. in a bid to slow the spread.
With the intent to subvert an ultimate...
Several hundred demonstrators gathered in front of the commercial port of Marseille to protest against the closure of bars and restaurants decreed by the government in an attempt to curb the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. They were shouting, "Stay open and don't close." The centrist government of President Emmanuel Macron announced a series of new measures on Wednesday to try to slow the spread of the disease, and that includes the closure of all bars and restaurants, and earlier closing times in Paris and elsewhere. Faced with criticism from the mayors of Paris and Marseille, legal challenges and calls from some bar owners to defy the new orders, Prime Minister Jean Castex on Thursday announced more help for businesses forced to close or restrict opening hours due to the new measures. And India reported its 6th millionth coronavirus case on Monday as it surged closer to the United States as the most infected nation, and authorities pressed ahead with reigniting the economy. The vast nation is home to 1.3 billion people, some of humanity's most densely populated cities, and a feeble healthcare system. And for several weeks, it has reported around 90,000 new cases daily, the highest in the world. Health Ministry data showed a rise of 82,000 cases on Monday, taking the total to 6.1 million and closing the gap on the U.S., which has recorded 7.1 million infections. India could leapfrog the U.S. in the coming weeks. India has a much lower death rate than other worst-hit nations, with almost 100,000 fatalities so far, fewer than half the grisly toll of 205,000 recorded in the U.S., which has roughly a quarter of the population. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called on people to keep wearing face coverings when they venture outside of their homes. The virus initially hit major metropolises, including financial hub Mumbai and capital New Delhi, but has since spread to regional and rural areas where healthcare systems are even more fragile. The government is unlikely to reimpose major restrictions after a lockdown in March battered the economy and wrecked the livelihoods of millions of people, particularly the poor. Now, some schools have now reopened, and trains, metros, domestic flights, markets, and restaurants have been allowed to operate with some restrictions. The Taj Mahal also opened again for tourists this month. In Australia, certain states and territories have different restrictions. Let's find out the latest coronavirus situation in Queensland. Joining us live is Morgan Goodfellow. Hello, Morgan.
Good evening, Alma.
Good evening. So tell us about your situation there. Yes, go ahead.
We bring you the latest updates on the COVID-19 situation in Australia. According to the Department of Health, as of 9 p.m. the 28th of September 2020, the total confirmed cases are 27,044, with only an increase of 5 cases since yesterday, along with 5 deaths and 43 recoveries. At the moment, the state of Victoria has 20,149 confirmed cases, 359 active cases, followed by New South Wales with 72 active cases, and Queensland having only 8 active cases. Here in Queensland, as of 1 a.m. Friday the 25th of September 2020, there are no longer government areas listed as Queensland COVID-19 restricted areas. Certain restrictions still apply under the movement and gathering direction. This means everyone in the state can have a maximum of 30 people in your home, including the members of your household that live there. The visitors can be from different households, also having a public gathering with a maximum of 30 people, including yourself and members of your household. We are urged to keep a healthy routine, such as getting up and going to bed at similar times every day, to keep up with personal hygiene, eat healthy meals at regular times, exercise regularly. A simple 3 to 4 minutes of light intensity physical movement, such as walking or stretching, is helpful. Allocate time for working and time for resting. Make time for doing things you enjoy. Take breaks from on-screen activities. Don't use alcohol and drugs as a way of dealing with fear, anxiety, boredom, and social isolation. This is Morgan Goodfellow from Townsville, Australia, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Alma.
All right. 5 million residents in Australia's second biggest city emerged from an almost 2-month overnight curfew on Monday as just 5 new coronavirus cases were recorded in the worst-hit Victoria state. Now, the figure was the lowest daily rise in infections in Victoria since June 12 and came as residents of the state capital, Melbourne, saw a raft of other virus restrictions also ease. Curbs on industries such as construction and manufacturing have been lifted in Melbourne, with childcare centers reopening and small religious services allowed to resume. Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews said the downward trend in new cases was, quote, very, very significant, suggesting more restrictions would be eased if it continued. Despite the lifting of the curfew, Melbourne residents remain subject to a stay-at-home order and are only allowed to travel within a radius of 5 kilometers or 3 miles for a limited number of approved activities. Non-essential businesses are still banned from reopening, with restaurants only available for takeaway, a rule that has caused angst among many owners. In Malacanang, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the national government is reopening the economy to alleviate hunger among Filipinos affected by the lockdown. However, he said there will be many job opportunities for people as the country slowly opens up its economy. Now, he said the national government has not neglected its obligation to provide necessary assistance to sectors most affected by the pandemic. Roque said the government has started boosting public transportation while ensuring minimum health and safety standards are observed. Take a look.
Doon sa... Well, Joyce, unang-una, nakakalungkot itong balitang ito, no? At kaya nga po tayong nagbubukas ng ekonomiya para mapababa yung mga numero, lalong-lalo na ng mga nagugutom. Pero alam niyo po, ang Metro Manila, where 60% of our GDP comes from, matagal na po tayong naka-GCQ, no? At hindi ko po alam ang magiging classification for the next month. Pero kapag GCQ po kasi, bahagya lang bukas ng ekonomiya, mga 50% lang po ang bukas. Under MGCQ, mga 75% po ng ekonomiya ang bukas. So naintindihan na ito po ang dahilan talaga kung bakit yung mga karpintero, mga drivers, mga konduktor, yung mga limited pang mga transportation, sila po talaga ngayon siguro ang nakatikim o naka-experience ng kagutuman. No? Pero ang pakiusap po ng lahat namin, ng gobyerno natin ngayon, sa lahat, no? Itong buwan na po tayong namubuhay na nandyan ng COVID-19. Mabait naman po ang Panginoon sa atin. Karamihan ng mga kaso ay mild asymptomatic, 1.7% mababa po yan, yung ating death rate. Ang pakiusap natin, pwede naman pong magtrabaho habang nandiyan ng COVID-19. Doon nga po sa ad campaign natin ngayon, ang presidente ng nakikiusap, mask, hugas, iwas, dahil kinakailangan po nating pangalagaan ang ating kalusugan para tayo po ay makapaghanap buhay. Now, hindi naman po tayo pabaya, no, doon sa obligasyon ng Estado na magbigay ng tulong dito sa mga sektor na ito. No? Unang-una, kaya nga po pinatataas natin yung sektor ng transportasyon dahil alam natin na talagang hindi tayo po pwedeng lumampas ng 50%, no, kung walang transportasyon. Kaya pilit nating pinalalabas ang mas marami pang transportasyon. No? Kaya nga lang with 1 meter distancing, talagang hanggang 30% lang po talaga ang ating transportasyon. No? Hanggang hindi mababago yung distancing requirement na yan. No? Kahit patakbuhin pa po natin lahat ng bus, lahat ng jeepney, no? Dahil nga po may 1 meter distancing, hindi pa rin mabibigyan ng sapat na transportasyon ng lahat. No? Gustuhin man natin buksan na mas malaki pa ang ating ekonomiya. Pero nagbibigay po tayo ngayon ng ayuda sa mga lugar na subject to localized lockdown or granular lockdown. Patuloy po ang pagbibigay natin ng tulong dun sa mga nawalan ng trabaho. May 2 programa po ang DOLE tungkol dito, yung COVID-19 Adjustment Program at saka yung TUPAD, yung Work for Cash Program, at nandyan din po yung Small Business Subsidy salary subsidy ng Department of Finance. At nandyan din po ang Bayanihan 2, no? Kung saan nagbibigay tayo ng mga pautang sa lahat ng mga nawalan ng trabaho na gusto magsimula ng sariling negosyo. At siyempre po, nandyan din yung ating 2021 budget, no? 4.5 trillion. At napaloob po dyan sa budget na yan, yung mas marami pang trabaho para pa nga po mapababa pa natin ng husto ang numero ng mga nagugutom.
Beijing called on importers to shun frozen food from countries suffering from a severe outbreak of COVID-19 after several cases of imported seafood products tested positive for the virus. China had already suspended imports from seafood producers in Brazil, Indonesia, and Russia for a week or more. The Beijing Municipal Commerce Bureau urged importers to closely monitor the pandemic situation around the world and take the initiative to avoid importing cold chain foods from areas severely hit by the pandemic, unquote. According to a tally by Johns Hopkins University, there has been 90,493 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in China and 4,739 deaths. Eagle News will be right back.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net25.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Armenian separatists in the breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh said 15 more of its fighters have been killed in a flare-up of a territorial dispute, bringing the total death toll to 39 as the fighting entered a second day. Nagorno-Karabakh has declared martial law and total military mobilization. The region is internationally recognized as Azerbaijan, but controlled by ethnic Armenians. The conflict in the Caucasus Mountains has remained unresolved for more than 3 decades now. Both sides also reported civilian casualties. Azerbaijan claimed it captured a strategic mountain in Karabakh that helps control transport links between Yerevan and the enclave. Now, Turkey has pledged support for Azerbaijan, and Armenia's traditional ally, Russia, has meantime called for an immediate ceasefire. France, Germany, Italy, and the European Union swiftly urged an immediate ceasefire. Meanwhile, the European Union warned regional powers not to interfere in fighting in Nagorno-Karabakh and condemned a serious escalation threatening the regional stability.
Georgi, indeed, we hope and we urge everyone to do everything they can in order to prevent an all-out war from breaking out, because this is the last thing the region needs. The escalation around Nagorno-Karabakh is very worrying because it carries the risk of serious escalation and serious consequences for the regional stability.
Azerbaijani and Armenian forces were battling for a second day on Monday after dozens were killed in an outbreak of heavy fighting. Fighting erupted on Sunday along the front lines of Nagorno-Karabakh, an ethnic Armenian regional enclave that has broken away from Azerbaijan. The conflict in the Caucasus Mountains has remained unresolved for more than 3 decades. U.S. President Donald Trump, and again, his tax returns. President Trump faced allegations that he paid little or no federal income tax for years before he came to power. The New York Times alleged the billionaire president paid just 750 billion federal taxes in income taxes in 2016, the year he won the White House, and 2017, and no federal income taxes at all in 10 of the previous 15 years because he reported losing more money than he made. President Trump immediately dismissed the accusations as totally fake news.
It's totally fake news, made up, fake. We went through the same stories. You could have asked me the same questions 4 years ago. I had to litigate this and talk about it. Totally fake news. No, actually, I paid tax, and you'll see that as soon as my tax returns. It's under audit. They've been under audit for a long time. The IRS does not treat me well. They treat me like the Tea Party, like they treated the Tea Party.
So the Times said that President Trump reduced his tax bill via a $72.9 million tax refund that is the subject of an Internal Revenue Service audit. So he only paid $750. He also reportedly took tax deductions on residences, aircraft, and $70,000 in hairstyling for television appearances. Meanwhile, his golf courses report losing large amounts of money, and hundreds of millions of dollars in loans he personally guaranteed will soon be due for repayment, according to the New York Times. Now, presidential nominee Joe Biden's campaign team posted a tweet that simply stated how much federal income tax had been paid by teachers, $7,239, firefighters at $5,283, and nurses at $10,216, all groups that have been hit hard by the pandemic or the West Coast wildfires. Two major topics ahead of the debate. The TV debate could be a wild card, though, with President Trump needing to break through the 200,000 U.S. coronavirus deaths, the long-lasting economic fallout, and fatigue at the constant upheaval roiling his administration. Now, within hours of President Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court, Republicans announced their fast-track schedule for Senate confirmation hearing beginning October 12. At the White House, the nominee Federal Appeals Court Judge Amy Coney Barrett said she's prepared for the contentious partisan debate over her nomination. Take a look.
Should I be confirmed, I will be mindful of who came before me. The flag of the United States is still flying at half-staff in memory of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg to mark the end of a great American life. Justice Ginsburg began her career at a time when women were not welcome in the legal profession. But she not only broke glass ceilings, she smashed them. Thank you.
Now, Democrats are furious given that President Trump could lose the election yet still leave a judicial imprint with potential to last decades. They are especially incensed given that Barrett, 48, is replacing Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the country's biggest feminist icons and a steady ally of the left. Now, if confirmed, Barrett will fill the seat of late liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, likely steering the court to the right for years, expanding the current conservative wings, sometimes shaky 5-4 advantage to a solid 6-3. Meanwhile, in a tweet, U.S. President Donald Trump said the Obamacare will be replaced with a much better and far cheaper alternative if it's overturned in the Supreme Court. The president claims to have such a plan since he was a candidate in 2015. Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden quoted President Trump's tweet and warned that it signals that protections under the Affordable Care Act are at stake if Judge Barrett joins the court.
There's no mystery about what's happening here. President Trump is trying to throw out the Affordable Care Act. He's been trying to do it for the last 4 years. The Republican Party has been trying to eliminate it for a decade.
President Trump has nominated Amy Coney Barrett, a darling of conservatives, to replace the late liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg in a lifetime seat on the top court, potentially impacting some of the most partisan issues in America, and that is from abortion to gun rights to health care. In other news, the owner of Australia's biggest theme park was fined $3.6 million Australian dollars on Monday for safety failures leading to the deaths of 4 people on a popular water ride in 2016. 2 women and 2 men died when their rafts collided on the Thunder River Rapids ride at Dreamworld on the Gold Coast, leading prosecutors to file 3 charges against owner Ardent Leisure in June. A Queensland court found the company had breached the state's workplace health and safety laws, but stopped short of the maximum 4.5 million Australian dollar penalty. Ardent Leisure said it accepted full responsibility and apologized unreservedly in a statement to the Australian Securities Exchange. Ardent Leisure said it had compensated the majority of families, first responders, and others impacted by the tragedy and was working to complete the outstanding claims. 2 10-month-old twins were among at least 11 people killed in landslides across an Indonesian city early on Monday, a search and rescue officer said. Several houses were buried in 4 separate locations around Tarakan on Borneo Island after hours of heavy rain and strong winds. 5 children were among the dead, while 4 other people were rescued alive. Local search and operation chief Amiruddin said the heavy rain and strong wind triggered landslides in several locations at almost the same time, and some people could not save themselves. At least 19 homes were damaged across Tarakan. Fatal landslides and flash floods are very common across the Indonesian archipelago, where seasonal downpours are frequent and relentless. Japan's government urged people to seek help if they were struggling to cope following the death at the weekend of a popular actress. The death of Miss Sherlock star Yuko Takeuchi, 40, shocked the nation and follows other recent cases of Japanese celebrities taking their lives, with figures showing a recent rise in suicides. Takeuchi was a household name in Japan and had given birth to her 2nd child in January. Chief Cabinet Secretary Katsunobu Kato did not mention a particular case, but noted that some people were struggling to cope during the coronavirus crisis. And he urged the public to use suicide prevention hotlines and other services. Takeuchi played the lead in the 2018 Hulu HBO Asia series Miss Sherlock, and also had a minor part in the 1998 Japanese horror classic Ring. Eagle News, we'll be right back.
You want to earn a degree while you work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management. Master's Program in Business Administration. Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science. Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication. Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino. Major in English. Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Christina Moreno, 0995-138-0786 or email cvmoreno@meu.edu.ph or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150 or email cedctl@meu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
With the coronavirus crisis putting a chill on travel, European airlines are reducing fares to attract passengers and fill the planes that are still flying. Travel restrictions adopted by many countries to stem the spread of the disease have clobbered airlines, bringing air traffic to a near halt in the spring. And while traffic picked up during the summer, it's now falling off again. According to Eurocontrol, which coordinates air traffic in Europe, traffic has been slowing over the past couple of weeks and is now 54% below its comparable level last year. You have to entice travelers to return to flying, and price is a factor. That is according to Reginald Otten, Deputy Managing Director for France at budget airline EasyJet. He also said the airline had managed to reopen some routes during the summer and the planes it flew were nearly full. Ryanair, meanwhile, which has used a low-cost model to become one of Europe's biggest airlines, this week launched a brief buy one, get one free promotion. Now, according to Forward Keys, a company which analyzes the tourism market, airlines trimmed fares from Britain, France, Germany, and the Netherlands to destinations in Southern Europe by 15% in August, compared with the same period last year. Shares in China's biggest chip maker tumbled Monday on reports that Washington had imposed export controls on the company, the latest salvo in the battle for technological dominance over Beijing. In a new blow for China's advanced tech ambitions, the U.S. Commerce Department reportedly ordered companies to seek permission before selling equipment to Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, or SMIC. Equipment sold to the Chinese company posed an unacceptable risk of being diverted to military end use. That is according to a letter sent to major U.S. computer chip firms that was seen by the Wall Street Journal and the Financial Times. Under the new rules announced by the Commerce Department, U.S. companies that want to sell equipment to SMIC will now have to apply for a license. On Monday, SMIC said it had yet to receive any notification of the new restrictions from the Commerce Department. The export restrictions for SMIC come after a similar U.S. campaign to hobble Chinese telecom giant Huawei, which Washington fears could allow Beijing to tap into global telecoms networks. Meanwhile, Beijing accused the Trump administration of abusing national power by trying to ban TikTok, as the federal court gave the video app's U.S. operations a stay of execution. A U.S. government order had sought to ban new downloads of the Chinese-owned app from midnight, but allow use of TikTok until November 12, when all use would be blocked. Describing the order as bullying behavior, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said it was evidence of abusing national power to unreasonably suppress other countries' enterprises.
我们注意到了相关的报道，中方一贯反对美国泛化国家安全概念，滥用国家力量，无理打压别国企业的霸凌行径。我们希望美方切实尊重市场经济和公平竞争的原则，遵守国际经贸的规则，为各国企业在美投资经营提供公正、公平、开放、非歧视性的营商环境。
President Trump claims the popular app poses a national security threat and harvests data for Beijing via its Chinese parent company ByteDance allegations the firm vehemently denies. The U.S. squeeze on TikTok is one of a litany of issues souring relations between the rival powers, spanning tech, defense, human rights, and contested areas. U.S. tech giants have also raised concerns over the precedent a ban could set for a free internet and the prospect of reprisals against American firms operating in China's vast market. ByteDance has begun discussing a complex transfer of ownership to Silicon Valley giant Oracle. A tentative deal unveiled last weekend would make Oracle the technology partner for TikTok and a stakeholder in a new entity to be known as TikTok Global. Chinese electric vehicle firm XPeng took the chance to show off its Kiwi Go-Go, a drone-like vehicle that can carry 2 people, a step towards flying cars in Beijing. Take a look. InsideEVs.com reported that the Kiwi Go-Go is actually being developed by a company called XPeng High-Tech. XPeng describes the entity as an air-enabled high-technology unit that's majority owned by XPeng CEO He Xiaopeng and XPeng Motors. The company said the Kiwi Go-Go is the first in a series of electric flying vehicles it's developing. Now, at the event, tickets were limited this year in a bid to reduce crowds, although attendees surged through the exhibition center shoulder to shoulder. China's auto industry also is showing signs of recovery after passenger car sales collapsed by around 80% in February when consumers stayed home and the economy came to a near standstill to curb the virus outbreak. The Miami Heat poured it on in the fourth quarter to beat the Boston Celtics 125-113 on Sunday and book an NBA Finals showdown with the Los Angeles Lakers. Celtics coach Brad Stevens said the 23-year-old Adebayo's determination and the Heat's physicality were simply too much at the end. Take a look.
I feel like we're still yet to play our absolute best basketball, but we're on the way. We realize what we have to do moving forward. So I have to be damn near perfect to beat the Lakers. I'm capable of it.
You know, of all the guys that have been here for so many years, you know, we just want to enjoy it for a night. You know, teams like this are unique. It's special. A group that really competes, a bunch of guys that have been overlooked in a lot of ways. These guys just want to compete. They just want to roll the ball out and play and compete and fight for it.
They're strong, they're physical, they're tough, and him in particular dominated that fourth quarter. Even the plays where he didn't score, his presence was so impactful. And
the Heat, NBA champions in 2006, 2012, and 2013, reached the championship series for the 6th time in club history with a 4-2 victory over the Celtics in the best-of-7 Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA's quarantine bubble in Orlando, Florida. When the finals start on Wednesday, they'll be up against a Lakers team led by LeBron James, who reached the title series 4 times with Miami and won 2 titles before departing as a free agent in 2014. Contemporary British artist Saka Jaffrey unveiled his giant painting entitled The Journey of Humanity at a hotel in Dubai, where he spent months of lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic. Take a look. Eagle News, we'll be right back.
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliet Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit, lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden. Die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten. Sie wertschätzen.
Welcome back. Cruising on an empty Bangkok highway, 63-year-old Nanlak Chairitichai, the oldest member of Thailand's longboard national team, says taking up the sport set her on the road to recovery from breast cancer. Take a look.
เราทิ้งทุกอย่างไว้อะทิ้งปัญหาทิ้งเรื่องราวขัดข้องหมองใจเราลืมไปหมดเลยเราอยู่บนบอร์ดที่มันไหลไปเรื่อยๆตามทางของมันน่ะ ค่อนข้างมั่นใจเลยว่าเพราะว่าเราได้มาเล่นลองบอร์ดเนี่ยเหมือนการมาเล่นลองบอร์ดมันไม่ใช่แค่ได้ไถกระดานจากข้างบนลงไปข้างล่างใช่ไหมแต่ระหว่างทางที่เราเดินกลับขึ้นไปเนี่ยก็เท่ากับเราได้ออกกำลังกายไปในตัว
แก่แล้วเนาะแต่ถามว่าห่วงจนไม่ทำอะไรจนไปกลัวโลกมันก็ไม่ใช่ครับเพราะว่าชีวิตแม่งต้อง live the life อะ
Berkeley in Northern California will ban the sale of junk food from supermarket checkout displays, becoming the first U.S. city to do so, according to local media. Now, the City Council unanimously passed a bill this week to promote healthier eating by prohibiting products with over 5 grams of added sugar or 250 milligrams of sodium from checkout aisles. Drinks high in sugar and artificial sweeteners will also be restricted. Council member Kate Harrison said the healthy checkout ordinance is essential for community health, especially in the time of COVID-19. Now, the ban will affect 25 large supermarkets in the university city of around 120,000 people from next March. Progressively Berkeley, just across the bay from San Francisco, has a track record of pioneering health initiatives. In 2014, it imposed a tax on soft drinks that was adopted by several other major U.S. cities. According to a study last year, Berkeley residents reduced their consumption of soft drinks by half by 2017. And before we close, we leave you with a word of hope. At the end of the day, there remains so much more to be grateful for. See you again tomorrow evening. Good night. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.